For me personally, this has been a pleasure to have done this. I have learned so much, but the one thing about this project is that it didn't start a year ago. It started nearly 5 years ago when I came here and started to work on projects such as the Mexican America's First Trailblazers of Austin and Travis County, then worked on Voces de Latinas, and then worked on the oral history of the Mexican American Cultural Center. And all that coming together, and so many people talking about the Brown Berets and all, and activism as a whole, because if it wasn't for activism, a lot of the things that have been accomplished here would not have been accomplished. And it's individuals who I always say have given a voice to this community. And we're very fortunate. At the moment, Mr. Tommy White has not arrived. He might hopefully arrive a little late, so if that happens, we'll just put him right in and let him be part of this, what was going to be a panel discussion. The title of it, A Journalistic View of Grassroots Activism 1970 to 1980. And for those of you who may not have seen this, I do have a little notebook over here of lots of articles that we have been able to, as Dr. Zamora, using his terms, to recover and reclaim for making sure that all of this is documented. And it takes a lot of work to sit at the microfilm and to go through page by page, and sometimes by accident we find some of these articles, and we're very fortunate to have volunteers, and one of those volunteers that does this is Danny Camacho. So, but this by no means is all that we have on this subject. We have so much more that we've been able to gather. When I first started on this project, we might have had like 5-6 pages of articles in our AF file for the Brown Beret, but it's now has grown considerably. And not only that, but lots and lots of photographs that we've been able to add to our photo collection. And again, all of this comes through because of donations and individuals that have been very involved with what we do. And with that, I am very proud to say that we've been able to do a lot, and hopefully for those that were members of the Brown Berets, but for those that were supporters of their cause, and for everything else that they have done for their community, hope that we've done this justice, because this is a project that is definitely very important for the chronicles of the Mexican American history here in Austin. Today, as I stated earlier, we were going to have Mr. Tafoya, Marcelo Tafoya, and Mr. Tommy Wyatt, both individuals who have been very instrumental in making sure that a lot of this information was documented. And if you were to compare the writings of what was being put into the Echo and the Villager, compare that to other mainstream media newspapers, you're going to see that it's totally, in different perspectives and so forth. And so that's another thing too, is that we're very fortunate to have the Mr. Tafoya here today with us, because I don't think that something like this has been done to where we can bring in, do all of these different programs and also be inclusive of the newspapers. And so with that stated, I am now going to say what I should have said at the very beginning if I was really conducting an oral history interview. And my name is Gloria Espitia. I am the Mexican American Community Archivist with the Austin History Center. Today is Sunday, October the 27th, 2013. We are here at the Austin History Center in the Holt reception and gallery room. Now, I have said that, so it's documented, but I realized that afterwards. We have got a little agenda, but we probably are going to stray from it every once in a while, but that's what we do. First of all, Mr. Tafoya, I think what I'm going to do is I am going to ask you, can you give us your full name? Can you tell us where you were born and raised, and how did you get to Austin?
In the wagon train. No, well, first of all, being that you're legal now, because like what you just said. First of all, my name is Marcelo Tafoya. I was born in Lorain, Ohio, believe it or not. I'm a Yankee. Actually, I'm a triple Yankee. Born in the North, being Hispanic, and then living in Texas. Well, that's the total. I'm official. My whole family are from Georgetown. My great-great-grandmother is buried there. All my parents, all my kinfolk. So that's home base. My father went to work in Ohio at the steel factory, and that's where we were all born. And he decided to bring us back home. I arrived in Texas in 1945, so you can imagine. And lived in Georgetown, graduated Georgetown High School. I also was very fortunate. I say that, at the time it wasn't. I went to an all-Mexican school. And they also had an African-American school there in Georgetown and an Anglo school. So I got to see everything starting from there. And as I went to school in Georgetown, I got very interested in becoming a priest. So the priest there, after graduation, he sent me to Notre Dame. I was there for less than a year. And then they sent me to Mexico to be one of the several directors of an orphanage in Cuernavaca, Morelos, Mexico. I got sick there, so they sent me home. A week later, I returned back as a papal volunteer and spent a whole year in Mexico City. When I got back to Georgetown, I had a choice of getting into radio or going back to Notre Dame. So I decided to stay in radio because I could serve my people more on radio than I could as a priest. At least that was my opinion at the time. But even before that, when I was young, I realized all the turmoils and the problems our people were having in El Barrio, in Georgetown, in a small town that I lived in. And so it had been instilled in my life since my grandmother and my father and my parents to help as many people as you can. One of the sayings that my father said is, whatever you do for people, don't expect nothing in return. Expect it in your children. Well, being a young man and him being an older man, I thought something was wrong with him. Well, it turns out that everything I've done, the benefit is being my children. Because whenever they mention the name Tafoya, they say, oh, you're Marcelo's son or daughter, and what can I do for you? It opened doors. So then that's when I realized that my father wasn't an old man after all. He was a very highly intelligent man, and he knew exactly what he was talking about in real life. So when I started radio, I started coming to Austin, and I noticed the same thing here in Austin. The east side of Austin was being ignored. And of course, most of my advertisers was here. So I started to use my radio to promote not only the music of our area, but we created what they call La Onda Tejana, just Tejano music done in the form of an orchestra, not necessarily conjunto. Although Tejano music has existed for many, many years, but it never was identified of our type of music, our genre. So I was able to do it together with several other young DJs that were around, which was a young lady named Rosita Ornelas Seguin, a young lady, they called her Maruca, was from Rosenberg. Her name was Mary Rodriguez. And being young, we decided to play this music that nobody else wanted to play because all the DJs were from Mexico and they were traditionalists. So we started a revolution in itself. So that gave me the opportunity to move to Austin some 52 years ago. And I got a little office on 5th and Pleasant Valley, so I decided to publish a newspaper. I started publishing The Echo, and a young man from the University of Texas by the name of Zeke Romo decided to be the editor of the newspaper. And so we went around getting stories of what was happening in East Austin, more so than anywhere else. And the more we were there, the more we found out what was happening. And at the time, we had a big meeting in our office, and Mr. Paul Hernandez was there, myself, Zeke, and several others. And Paul said he wanted to start the Brown Berets. I said, okay, we'll support you, whatever you want to do. So then, from there, Zeke became the editor of the newspaper, and I did not join the Brown Berets for one reason alone, is because I handled the media. And I didn't want them to come to me in the media and say, no wonder you're mentioning the Brown Berets so much because you're part of them. I said, well, no, I'm a supporter of them. I'm not a member. So that was my way of being able to support the Brown Berets. And I had a television show in Channel 7. I had a radio show. Then I had actually 3 radio shows in Austin. I started off at KZZ at 6 o'clock in the morning till 7:30. Then I would go back to Georgetown, do a show from 3 to 4, come back to KEZZ from 7 to 8 at night, and then I would go to KUT, University of Texas, and do a show from 11 to 1 in the morning. And then I was offered a television show by Cactus Pryor, so I did that, taped it on Wednesday night. So between the stations, I would tape the show, then I'd go to the KEZ show. So the more I got involved in the media, the more opportunity I had to be able to help the Brown Berets and help the community in East Austin to try to move forward. And so I remember when the Berets got formed and everybody started to join the parade, I gave them cameras. I gave them little throwaway cameras. So whatever issues, whatever thing that you see that you think is wrong, take a picture, and I'll publish it in the Echo. Well, I started publishing the Echo, like back in the 60s. And what was so funny about it, it got so radical, they called it radical because we were telling the truth, that nobody wanted to advertise in the Echo. So that's when I decided to create Música, which is about music. So everybody was advertising in Música, meaning that supported the Echo. So that was my way of getting around it. So again, you gotta do what you gotta do, they say, in this business. So I'm very, very proud to say that I had something to do with it, and I know that I think we did a lot of good, because out of that we had a lot of people that run for office that got elected. We had judges that came to us for their support. They got city council members. We had some state representatives. So we were very fortunate. We were fortunate to be able to support our people in doing what they should have been doing a long time ago. And like I said, because lack of an outlet, the Austin American Statesman and other newspapers would not do it. I think Arriba did quite a bit also. At the time, there was another newspaper called La Fuerza that really didn't write very much about East Austin, about issues like that. Mostly it was Arriba and myself and the Villager, of course, at the end of it. I remember one time we had a march we went from Parque Zaragoza to the police station, and for the very first time, the Black Panthers joined us. They had never joined us in anything that we'd done before till then. So, little by little we started to change minds, but we still haven't been able to receive anything. In fact, I found in my archives at home a newsletter from El Barrio where it said, and this is 1974, we need affordable housing in East Austin. 1974. That's just to show you how far back we've been fighting these issues that exist today, okay? And out of everything that has occurred, as far as I'm concerned, in creating the Brown Berets or helping them along and helping the other organizations, como Raza Unida, I was very pleased to have in my office Randy Muniz when he was running for office. I also had Cesar Chavez in my office, and we have a lot of pictures of him together with a lot of our leaders. To whatever movement that was coming along. In fact, there was a movement called PASO, which was a political entity that was very strong, that we helped also. So what I'm saying is that with an outlet to be able to do these things, we can do it. And I'm sorry to say today we don't have an outlet. We don't have that structure that we need to have to be able to do these things. And we do need it more than anything else. Yes, we have television stations like Univision that will come and do a 2-minute thing on us and do it. Our radio stations here do not cover anything that has to do with anybody really except making money. And to me, that's the worst of it all. They're out to make money and not understanding that without the audience, they're not going to get anywhere. Because I had a young man, well, to me at the time he was young, named Felipe Martinez. For people who don't know him, he was a songwriter, he was a barber, he was a shoesmith. He did everything, recording artist, etc. He told me one time, he said, Marcelo, don't ever forget los Paganinis. I said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? He said, yeah, don't ever forget los Paganinis. He said, and I said, well, what are you talking about? He said, don't ever forget those who paid for you to be where you're at today. The people that go to the stores and buy goods from the places that you advertise, that go to the places that you advertise in the Echo, they're the ones that are the Paganini. They're the ones that keep you where you're at. So never forget who these people are. And I never have. And even as today, I never have. Because without the community behind you, without the community being beside you, we will never accomplish what we accomplish. We've been fighting for over 7 years for single-member districts here in Austin. Thank God the community voted it in. Now the hardest thing for us to do is get a map, a structure, so that it'll give us a better opportunity to have more Hispanics in the city council, more minorities in the city council, not necessarily just Hispanics, but to be able to have a little bit more what to say and what is going to come out of the welfare of the community through a city council that will listen to you. With single-member districts, I feel that we will be able to go to one of our district representatives and if nothing else, sit there and talk to them about our issues. And hopefully they would pass it on to when they're on the dais. So that's one reason why we've been fighting for equality, for an opportunity to have what we don't have. And in our research, we have found that millions of dollars have been brought into Austin by the use of minority demographics, but the minority never sees it. And I'm talking about millions of dollars. And that's a shame when you turn over the money to the city and the city doesn't return it back to where it should be. But again, as long as we can continue, and it's a battle that I don't think we'll ever win it 100%, but we don't want 100%. We just want our share. And that's one reason why I fight when I fight. That's why the Echo was created. And I'm sorry to say at the time we stopped publishing. In fact, one of the last one had Miss Susana Almanza on it where she was protesting with the trash cans. So it only goes to show that we wanted to do it and we're going to continue doing the best we can. So that's where I stand today.
Can I ask you, in regards to those individuals that were writing articles for the Echo, Paul Hernandez, Susana, Zeke Romo, Ernesto Frega, and there was different types of, there were articles, there were poems, there were, all kinds of things that were being written. Was it difficult? Did you have any say as to, well, yes, you can put this, or no, you can't, or did you just give them carte blanche and let them do whatever they wanted to put in there?
Well, I gave Zeke carte blanche. he was the one that was editing everything. As I said, he was the man that said, well, this is a good article. But when there was an article there referring to damages being done to our community or a misunderstanding, he was very, very considerate of that. And I don't think he ever rewrote anybody's story. I think he kept to what they wanted to say. And again, as long as it wasn't slanderous and protected our ability of not being sued, which they could have done it very easily with some of the articles that came out. But the fact that they couldn't because it was real. And I left Zeke to do all that. My thing was to pay for it and to have it distributed. In fact, we went throughout the barrios throwing the newspaper door to door when there was an important issue. And that's a lot of the newspapers never did that. I mean, my arm was so sore going through Montables, just throwing the paper out to the window that, I'd come home and had to put all kinds of medicines on my arm because it was really, really sore. So, I mean, this is the point that we got to. When it was an important issue, we went that extra mile. We went street by street and we threw it to everybody.
How much did did it cost you to print the paper? And also, how did you have a printer, a print shop, or how did you print it? Because there was a lot of photographs that were being put into the paper, and that takes a lot of time and getting it all straightened and everything.
Well, I had a big stamper. No, I'm kidding. We had a company out of Seguin that did the newspaper. We laid it out in the old form where you have to cut it out. And the worst thing about it is that in the old days we didn't have computers, and you had these typewriters that you had to type in. If you made a mistake, you had to go back, and then you had to block it off. And well, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And I thank Zeke and the individuals that helped us put it all together. And of course, there's a lot of misspelled words too, because we didn't have spell check. But anyhow, the thing is, the information was being submitted out. So we would put it together. I even learned how to measure the pictures so they would fit in the block and do all that. And I would take it to the printer, and they would put it all together. And then I would go pick it up. We would leave my office at 6 in the morning, come back about 8 or 9, and Zeke was still going to UT. So I would drop Zeke at UT with one bundle of papers, and I would go to my office and start separating and getting it put out. But it wasn't easy. And yes, it cost me. It all depends on how many pictures and how many pages. First we started with like 8 pages, and then all of a sudden we ended up with 24 pages, So it would average out maybe, in the beginning was maybe about $300, $400, $500. And then it ended up being like about $1,500. So it all depends how many pictures, and what size that you wanted. That's why we went to the smaller size instead of the regular newspaper size, which kept the cost down. And it was more, it cost me more to deliver it than it cost me to publish it. So, and then of course, I was very fortunate that a lot of business people would have it in their stores, and they would give it away. First I'll try to start charging 10 cents a paper, and then nobody wanted to pay for it, and I said 5 cents, then it's free. So after that,
So one of the things too, then you started Musica right close to the same time that you were doing Echo. Who was doing Musica? Were you the one?
The same ones.
Same ones.
Same bunch. Except the difference is that I was collecting the information of Musica. The pictures, the stories were coming to me, and I was giving them to Zeke and the staff, and well, I didn't have staff, but whoever volunteered, and they were the ones putting it together. And this last year, my son was doing the newspaper via the internet, with the computer, and we would send it to the publisher, and then they would print it in the printer, and then we'd go pick it up. But yeah, in fact, we had Musica on the internet for many years coming in. So.
I know that with Musica, there would be times that you would insert some of the information on the Echo, some of the paper into Musica, and got it delivered that way too. Yeah,
well, it was cheaper that way than any other way. I'll tell you a good example. For example, in East Austin, I would put the Echo up front so people knew who the Echo. But when I went to other areas, they didn't want the Echo there, so I would take out Musica out and put it on top. So they wanted Musica, they would take Musica, but the Echo was inside. So we double dipped, as they say in the old business, So this was the way to have both newspapers at the same place. And it was cheaper because we only did less printing.
Did you ever work with some of the publishers of La Fuerza, and then also The Villager, and some of the other local minority papers? And also another add-on question to that, how many minority papers do you know of that were in existence at the time that that you were publishing the Echo? Do you know?
Well, there was, for example, Arriba was there. I believe La Prensa had already started, and of course La Fuerza, and of course The Villager. But we never got involved with none of them because we always found that our issues were our barrio issues, and a lot of their issues was not that, So we try to be true to what we believed in, and we didn't want to be influenced either. That's another thing that happens whenever you get involved with other entities that are doing the same thing that you are, that you don't want to be influenced to what their beliefs or their understanding of the issue. Because you can have two people in one room, in whatever situation that may occur. And when they walk out of there, the written story is one thing and ours is another, you know. So we see it in the popular perspective compared to seeing it as an economic perspective or an issue of funding or whatever. See, we never thought about funding or about all that. We thought about this is the damage it's doing to our people and this should be corrected. And so we didn't go into all that other part of it.
As a supporter, you were, because that's what you were, you're a supporter of the Brown Berets. And at the Brown Berets, you know, there would be times that you probably would say, ay, están haciendo. But was there ever a time that you really, you know, felt they need more support, and so I'm going to go out there and try to get more people to support them in some of these different demonstrations or whatever?
Oh, of course. That's why I said I had the media, and whenever they planned a march, for example, we had one of these marches, which was we call when we marched to the Capitol on this right here back in October 12, 1997. I designed it, by the way. That's my baby. But anyhow, we found that, of course, in order to have that march, it's going to cost the city to be able to march down our streets and have them closed down and all that stuff. So we started with the media, you know, the importance of something like this, where we've got the members of the city council to help us out and not charge us for blocking the streets or having police protection and stuff. And many times we really didn't care if they were going to protect us or not. We were going to march anyway. But the idea that this is what we approach the city with is that, hey, we're going to march anyway. The Brown Berets are going to march anyway. So why not support us, you know, and at least show support, you know. So that was one way of doing it. And with the media, of course, you know, I had television, radio, and the newspaper. They didn't want to, I don't think, want to challenge us with that.
Did you ever, because to me, when I read the Echo and what I know of you and what I have learned about members of the Brown Beret, I'm assuming, and I guess Susana can probably talk about that later when we have the questions and answers, that they really considered you as a mentor, someone that was there and supporting their cause and everything. Did you ever look at yourself as saying, you know, these are the children that I'm taking under my wings? And because, you know, they were young.
Oh, yeah. But see, you have to realize that at the time I wasn't a father, so I never had that inclination. I knew that they were educated enough, that they knew what they were doing, and I knew their passion because I was there. I never felt that, you know, I only knew that I was doing the best I could to help them out. I never felt as being their father or their guidance or whatever. Never in anything that I've done. Even now with the Lulay, I never felt that I am their mentor or I am their guiding spirit. No. All I was there is for support. And they knew that. And I think that's one reason why they did the good job that they did, because there was nobody watching over them. They were doing it on their own. They would have their own meetings. They would have their own say. And believe me, if you ever went to a Brown Beret meeting, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, when there was an issue, it would come from the right, left, in the middle, and all around. But they would finally come out with something worthwhile, something that really meant something, you know. And I think that's where a person like myself respected that more, and not felt that, you know, well, if I speak, you know, no. I've never, in my whole life, never felt that I am anything but a supporter.
What would you say is, of all the issues that were, you know, you have with the Echo, was there one very important issue that you think stood out that was written about in the Echo?
Well, some of the big protests that we had, the economy furniture protests, the boats racing, other issues when the KKK came down and Paul got beat up pretty mad. I felt that I wish I would have been able to do more and not let that happen. But again, I was only limited to what I was being able to do to support. But those hurt me a lot, and I felt that, you know, having all these individuals there being beat up, being run down, and being hit with billy clubs, that hurt me a lot. That hurt me a big bunch, because I felt that maybe it was my fault because they were there. I'm getting a little emotional, I'm sorry. But overall, when I noticed that they were doing it for the love of it, I said, well, okay, then we know what we're stepping into. And I think they did too. I think they knew what they were going to receive. And I think they knew, and I think in any movement, when you're willing to step out the box and do that which is not acceptable, I think you know the consequences. Of course, it hurts you when you see it, but what I'm saying is they themselves, I think they knew. I think Paul knew that it was going to happen, and he was willing to do that. And I know a lot of the guys that I've talked to, because I also ended up in Lubbock with a radio station where I had the supreme commander of the Brown Berets that was willing to give up his life for the barrio. And it was his choice. It wasn't me telling him or anybody telling him. It was what he believed in with all his heart. We had little old ladies that was willing to stand before the police and said, "Déjame, go ahead and hit me." And you get to the point where you say, "Well, wow, this is beyond me." I mean, I might not have that courage to do that, but I saw that. I saw older women, young girls. I saw young children standing side by side with their parents and said, "Go ahead and hit us. Do whatever you want. We're here." And when that gets to that point, you sit back and say, "I have no control now. It's their choice, and if that's their choice, the only thing I can do is support them."
How did you manage now, going back to all that you were doing, and to also be, with the newspaper, you were with LULAC, you were, all the DJ and all of that, the work and all. How did you manage to do all of that without saying, I can only do so much and I gotta cut it back?
Well, first of all, I had a good wife. At 6 o'clock in the morning, she feeds me breakfast, opens the door, says, "Get out." I said, "Well, why?" I said, "Because you're going to live longer as long as you're out there doing whatever you're doing than sitting here dying, doing nothing." So I had a good base, and I had somebody that was not sitting there questioning me every 5 minutes of what I was doing. She knew that when I got home at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was going to go to sleep. The only regret I have is that I didn't see my children grow up, but I'm paying for it now because I have great grandchildren. So I'm reliving a life that I missed, and I think that's the worst part of it. But when you have support, when you have people that are willing to understand what you're doing, not questioning you, and you're doing the right thing, you never get tired. I never got tired. I never got tired of doing the radio show. I never got tired of doing the television, doing the echo, the musica. I never got tired because it kind of like, how you say it, you're getting to frijoles refritos every time you took a step, and that kept you going. So it wasn't a challenge at all. In fact, I don't even know how I did. I seriously don't.
Now, you have a museum.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? And because that was the one thing when I first came here and heard about your museum and know how many of your record collections and know about everything else, and I said, I wish I could see it. But can you tell us what the museum is all about and how you got started, why you got started on that?
Well, first of all, like my wife said, you're a pack rat, so that's number one. Number two is I've always been interested in our culture and where we come from and where we're going. And when I started doing my radio show, I used to buy my time. They didn't give it to me. I had to pay for it. And I would go to the record companies and get these records. And then, like I said, I had 2 record companies, and Roy Montelongo was one of them that I was with. And I saw what the musicians would go through when they went to record, or how hard they studied to do their songs and get it recorded and go and play. And they would go to a place to play for $200-300, and then the promoter would leave and not pay them. So I saw all this, and I said, well, we got to preserve this. It cannot just be unknown. So I started keeping everything that was given to me. They would give me records at the record company, and once we didn't play them anymore, I would put them away. I ended up with an 18-wheeler full of albums and records, which I still have. I have pictures that go all the way back when Little Joe had an afro. You go all the way. I got pictures I saw just the other day, La Hermanita Húngara, And I found out yesterday in Corpus that one of the young ladies is still alive. Now this goes back to the 1930s. And so I have that. I have 78. I have the history of our people in music that goes back all the way to the 1920s. And to me, I have a saying that says, sin música no hay vida. Without music, there isn't any life. So I've always been interested in saying, because my daddy used to say, yo sé bailar chotis. Okay, what's the chotis, So he would show me, el danzón, show me what the danzón. And so this is the life that, through music that we have in our culture. But nobody was doing this at the time. Nobody was trying to preserve our culture via the music, via the influence of the music from Mexico to us here. I got involved later on in the museum with the museum in New Braunfels. We put together the 100 years of the accordion. And there I learned the history of the accordion, that the reed was invented by the Egyptians, and how it progressed all the way down with the French, with the concertina. From the concertina, the Germans created the two-row accordion. The accordion came in through Mexico up through the valley, and the Tejanos, or the Mexicans here, changed it to 3 strings, 3 rows, and the different tones. So I learned all these things, and I said, look, this is our culture via the music, not via what we lived. The fact that I was a cotton picker, that I was this. Well, that's one part, but the music. And I remember my mom at 5 o'clock in the morning making tortillas, a stack of tortillas that big for us to go to the cotton field and singing. She used to listen to the radio. We'd get stations from Mexico. So all this music and thing was being inserted into my little head, which, well, it wasn't little, but the head that I had. And it started to say, well, there's something there. So I started collecting. I collected anything I could. Just lately I got 5,000 records stolen, but that was another story. But the thing is, I've been trying to find a building where I can expose it, and I've been cataloging things. That's why I had a double copy of the musica that I'm going to bring to y'all, donate to y'all, because of the fact that it's a custom in the newspaper business to keep 10 copies of everything that you publish so that people want it. So I found them. I've been going through what I still have. The only good thing about it, they didn't steal the pictures. All the pictures that I've got. It's going to take me forever to catalog all that stuff. But still, the museum, the whole purpose of the museum, which is different than the Hall of Fame. I could have had a Hall of Fame yesterday. Get a room this big, put the pictures of the artists, and that's it. But I want to be able to put the guitar player, the bass player, the drummer, all those that make the group. Because without them, you wouldn't have this band leader standing up front making all this money, and the musician making less, So my whole purpose is that everybody that was involved in creating our music should be recognized. They should have somewhere down their life, somewhere they can, their grandkids or whoever wants to come and say, look, that's my granddaddy, or my great-granddaddy used to play with Isidro Lopez, or you used to play with Selena, or you used to play with one of the other groups, because they were part of it. But we all ignored it. It's just like we ignore a lot of the people that were brown berets that didn't become leaders, but they were there. They were part of it. Without them, there wouldn't be no group marching. See? So to me, this is what the purpose of my museum.
In early 1970s, you and Paul Tovar and Mrs. Munoz Simon,
yes,
trying to get or approach City Council to try to get a Mexican American
cultural
center.
Yes.
Do you recall anything, and what was the outcome?
Well, first of all, the barrio itself, the people in the barrio wanted somewhere where they could call their own, where they could be able to display what was happening in the barrio, the things that were occurring, and all that. So they had come up with the idea, of course, where Parque Saltillo is right now. That was originally designated to be an area that we wanted. we wanted a mercado, first of all. We were going after un mercado, which was similar to the one they had in San Antonio. But within the mercado, too, we would have a cultural center. I'm sorry, a cultural center. And, of course, we tried to get as many individuals involved. And there was a lot of people that came forward. And the city council said, okay, well, we're going to give you $260,000 to find a location and find, whatever it took. So we found these empty warehouses where the cultural center is right now. And we said, well, we'd like to have this, but it took us, whoever was handling the money, ended up with no money to be able to get matching funds. So the city gave another $200,000 to try to get matching funds to be able to build there. And it never happened again. So the city council said, no, enough is enough, we're going to do it ourselves. So that's where they built the MAC, they call it the MAC, but now they call it the, okay. So to me, the barrio, the people that were involved in getting this thing, it wasn't just me or Paul or anybody else. It was all of us that were trying desperately to get somewhere that we could call our own. Because even today, you want to rent a place out, you got to go to the city. You want somewhere to gather, you got to go find somewhere, the church or somewhere to have meetings and all that, which we wanted a place that we knew that we could go to and have our get-togethers and do all these things. Well, that was the whole concept of getting a cultural center.
And so that was another thing too, you working very closely with those other individuals trying to get something like a cultural center. But because of your involvement with the Brown Berets and what they stood for, were you having any problems trying to get others within the community to support?
I don't think I had a problem with the community more so than with the status quo. The government, the city council, the county commissioners, our state representative wouldn't get involved with us either, But I don't think it was the community. My feeling it wasn't the community. I think it was more the status quo, the infrastructure of the government that really didn't want something like this to occur. I think they wanted it under their own control, to be able to control it. We had a Casa Quintanilla, which was actually, I think, our little second home away from home, that we were hopefully to be able to have that, and that disappeared. So, then we had what was it the Pepsi Cola building? That we were going to use that too, because it had a lot of locations, it was donated and everything else, and then that disappeared too. So, again, it's, I think, the lack of having the individuals that knew how to put these things together that we failed to do it in that way.
Well, we're just about down to me asking the questions, and we're going to open it up to the public in a little bit. But is there something else that you want us to make sure that we document through the here as we're about to close with this segment?
Well, yeah, because one thing like I said, that's why I've kept everything that I have. I've got more stuff that I should have brought that I didn't bring about the history of La Raza that was published in the Austin American Statesman 1981. There's about maybe 20 or 30 articles that I have put away talking about El Barrio, talking about issues that were occurring and things that were happening. I should have brought them so I could show them off. But not because I'm a history buff. I'm not a history buff. I'm more like a collector of whatever I can find that maybe we can be able to someday truly tell the story of our people in a form that the educational system will be able to give to our children. So our children will know really who we are as a community, as a raza, or whatever you want to name us, because we have all kinds of names. We have Mexican Americans, we have Chicanos, we have, Hispanics, we got Latinos. I don't care. What I'd like to see someday is a true book written about who we are, where we came from, what has been our struggle, what has been that part of our lives that we should transfer to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, people that are coming down the line and says, who are these people? And especially now that we're going to be the majority of the minority, God willing, and the creek don't rise, I think it's needed more so than ever, that we need somehow, and not be, I was talking to the young man over here about the fact that we don't want to let go. You know, we're the kind of people that, this is mine. You know, I'm not going to let you borrow it. I'm not going to let you use it because this is mine. What am I going to do with it? I mean, it's going to get old, get rotten, get thrown away. We need to pass it on. We need to give it to other people that are doing this kind of work so that our story will be one day, I don't know when, one day, it will be published in a book 10 times the size of this, telling our story.
And the answer's in the Yellowstone History Center.
Tan, tan. I say tan tan because I'll give you a quickie on this one. My mother, a beautiful lady, God love her soul, I told her one day, Mom, I said, you know, all these old songs that you hear, I said, have you heard it? Oh, yeah, mijo. There's no Mexican song, no Spanish song that I've never done. I know them all. Mama, there's thousands of them. Oh, I know them all. Okay, Mama, tell me. Tan tan. I said, well, Mama, well, tell me. Tan tan. Said all the songs that we played in tan tan. So she knew them all. So that's why I said tan tan.
Okay, now we're going to turn it over to the audience. This is your opportunity to ask questions, whether it be with Brown Berets, whether it be with LULAC, whether it be with Economy Furniture Strike, whatever that is in relation to the Mexican American community and the community of Austin in general. So, any questions?
Just so what folks, you know, coming through radio, somebody black men pull down themselves when they pick up everything.
You mentioned your mother listening to Mexican radio, and that there were songs, Mexican songs on the radio before orquesta music. Was that music coming from stations in Mexico?
A lot of them were, but there were also local radio programs. For example, in Taylor, there was a Domingo, I forget his name, but anyhow, he would have a radio show like from 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. They were just different, it was hourly shows. There were no full-time radio stations. The only full-time radio station was like KCOR in San Antonio, Cajavetin in Harlingen, a radio station in El Paso, and when in Houston, there was only 5 full-time radio stations. All the rest of them were hourly. Like when I bought my time, I bought from 3 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday. Rosita Ornella was on the air like from 1 to 2 every day. So it was only hourly shows. There was no such thing as a full show. Now the music that was being played was music that came from Mexico, with companies like RCA Victor, Musart, other companies like that. Texas didn't have any companies till later on, you know, in the 30s when Discos Falcon and Discos Corona, Discos Ideal were created. Yeah, but no, she would listen, she would hear that music from there. And then of course Mexico had, for example, a radio station that were very powerful that would come into Texas and you would hear them here, you know. Yeah.
Were the full-time stations that you're referring to Spanish language?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, the full-timers were all Spanish, even the ones from Mexico. The ones that were Tex-Mex were the ones that we were producing here. See, there's a difference because the stations from Mexico, they use Castilian Spanish compared to Tex-Mex that we use a mixture between traditional Spanish and what we create. There's words that we use here that they don't use in Mexico, and there's words in Mexico that is used that we don't use here, you know. In Mexico, the red light is el semáforo. We hear la luz roja, you know, the red light. So that's the difference, you know.
Okay.
Gentleman back there. Yes, sir?
Well, let's kind of get back there.
You got, okay, I'm gonna get back there. If you get back there.
Maybe you can come up.
Yeah, we can get here, that'd be great. Oh, I'm on the line.
Trying to see when you was younger, did you hang out at South Padre Island, Brownsville, and Matamoros?
No, I sure didn't. My hangout was Georgetown in a corner right there in Georgetown, Texas. And of course, I went to pick cotton, but in West Texas, and then went all the way to Montana and Washington. But no, but I do know a lot about that end of the state because I have very dear friends, musicians that are from McAllen, from Harlingen. One of my DJs is from McAllen himself. Now he's a preacher, by the way, he's a minister. So that's how I learned a lot about the music and the culture that they have in the valley, especially the music coming out of Corpus Christi, going down. In fact, Falcon Records comes out of McAllen, and the gentleman at Falcon had a TV program that he produced called Fanfarria Falcon, which was one of the first television programs of Tejano music, or Mexican music produced in Texas. So I used to use a lot of his material too in my show. My show was called Austin Presenta. And the music that came down, and see, that's another problem that came. We would start receiving a lot of music from Mexico. RCA Victor, Columbia Records, Peerless, they would send you boxes of music, but we never got our type of music, Tejano music. So till Falcon started recording, Ideal, Corona, and then of course Mr. G Record out of San Antonio, Joey Records, that's when we started to get more Tejano music. And again, don't make a mistake, conjunto music is Tejano music. Mariachi music created in Texas is Tejano music as far as I'm concerned. Trios that created in Texas is Tejano music. It depends what genre and how you want to explain it. And my definition of museum is, as long as it's recorded, produced, and published here in Texas, it's Tejano. So that's the only difference between music from Mexico to here. But yeah, in the valley, very strong, very strong.
Any other questions?
Was it strictly music format, or were there news, interviews, talk shows, or was it all music?
Well, of course, at first it was all music. Okay, everybody that was doing a radio show was strictly music. In fact, public service announcements were very rare and far between. We, being young DJs, we started doing more news information, more public service information, until we got a radio network called, I can't remember what the name it was, but it was a radio network that came down out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area that started doing the news. So we started buying time to be able to run a 15-minute newscast, but it was till, I'd say, the last part of the 70s that started actually having a real newscast as far as hearing the news. Now, I had a habit of getting the newspaper and reading articles of the newspaper, but it was not, I didn't have reporters or anything like that. But that was the only way we could assimilate the news to our people. And again, the difference was that the DJs that were there before were from Mexico, most of them, and they were traditionalists, that they believed that the music was going to do everything, and they didn't much get interested in what was happening here, especially with our community. And because we were young, like I said, I was 21 at the time, and Rosita was about 22 or 21, 22, something like that, and Maruca was 2, we were more interested in serving our community because we got back more from them, and that was one way of getting an audience and getting them to go to our sponsors and tell them, hey, listen to KGTN or listen to KRGT, they play good music and I listen to them. And so then now you got HEB, you got Walmart, you got all these these other companies wanting to advertise with you because here come these people telling them that they listen to you. So we use the new methodology instead of the old methodology to get businesses.
Marcelo Tafoya,
Yeah.
thank you, first of all, for all that you've done. I think the community owes you so much. And I know that, that's probably not the word to say because you're so modest and do it from your heart. But one of the things that occurred to me as we're speaking, I've thought about this, that contributions like yours and the Brown Berets speak to changing culture. I mean, the idea that you keep mentioning is that you're basically, modeling this value of service to the community, which is one of the messages that the movement's sending out. Because it's not just demonstrating, but speaking to power with ideas and speaking to our communities with ideas.
Mhm.
This is a powerful idea to say we need to promote service to the community. That's the new culture.
Mhm.
And the Brown Berets, I think, are a powerful example as well, in that they're saying, you know, we need to speak boldly and honestly and not be afraid.
Mhm.
I mean, there are consequences to speaking boldly and frankly.
You tell them.
But I think for me, much of our leadership, but particularly Brown Berets, for me, it meant, you know, you speak frankly and boldly for the community.
Yeah, well, see, one of the problems that we're having, well, I'll tell you a good example right here, not because Susana's here, but she's a good example of what a Beret did by creating what she created with her organization, showing the damages that's being incurred to our community via the tank farms, being the building of our trash bins in East Austin. We're actually the collector of trash. We're not the collector of good. And she, her organization is one of the ones that, for example, in this city, too willing to step up and get before the city councilman. And well, actually, she came close to shoving that poor, what is it, that canister that you had, yeah, right to their face. They went up like that. But see, the only problem is that a lot of the other Brown Berets that were doing all this have gotten such a bad rapport with the leadership of the city that they won't even listen to their ideas anymore. So what we need really is something like what she's doing right now to tell the story, so that when the story comes out, it doesn't come from Paul because he's considered a radical, a troublemaker, or from any one of us. You know what I'm saying? It should come from somewhere where it says, look, they've been telling you this all this time. Like the letter from the barrio that said, well, they've been asking for affordable housing since 1974, and nothing's been happening. You know, so I think you're right. You're absolutely right. A lot of good messages came out of this. A lot of good ideas and the things that they went through. It's tremendous. But the problem is that who delivers the message now is considered somebody that is not respected or is considered a troublemaker or whatever. So we need somebody other than to make our case. You know, at least that's my opinion. Susanna?
I just want to ask, because I thought it was really important as a young person. I wanted to learn the newspaper business, and I couldn't afford to go to college. But I remember going to Marcelo and asking him, I would like to learn the business of the newspaper and so forth. And of course, there was nothing to pay me, which I said, that's all right, because I just wanted to learn. And of course, then he hooked me up with Zeke Romo. And it was a lot of work, but what I really want to say is that there was an avenue. There was a newspaper. There was no other newspaper in Austin like the Echo, which was really serving or giving a voice to the people. Where else could you really go to tell the stories about what was happening in the community? And I think that that is something that I really honor and respect Marcelo about, because I didn't have a degree. I didn't, journalism wasn't mine, but I knew what was going on in the community. And they took the time to show me the newspaper business. And it was a lot of work. I remember having to color the little letters and making them line up and trying to type it and erasing it. And then Zeke took me out to, well, how do you get the ads? How do you talk to the business people? And how do you have to deliver it? And it was a lot of work. And so I respect them, because I saw how a grassroots business who was trying to tell very difficult stories, and like he said, one that was challenging, that probably people didn't want to advertise it, because it was very, very political, and not the political they wanted. It was the political of the grassroots community. And so to me, that opened up a lot of avenues, because on-the-job training, I was an on-the-job training student. That's what I was. But with that knowledge and experience, I got to go on and help people with other newspapers, teach them how to publish it, how to lay it out, and all of that. And so I really want to thank you, Marcelo, for all the work and for opening that door and for giving us a lot of people who are not, degree, and also for Zeke Dromo, because he did have that knowledge and experience, and he was willing to share that with grassroots people so that they could contribute. That was something very special that I learned and that I had the opportunity. And I don't think, I know if I would have gone and knocked at the Austin American Statesman door, they wouldn't have let me in. But you did, and so I just want to thank you for giving me and a lot of other people who knocked on your door that opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind word. Well, see, that's one thing that Ms. Susana, that she was talking about. Is even in my radio stations, I didn't want professionals. I didn't want people that had degrees and all that to be in my disc jockey. And the reason I didn't want them to bring bad habits to my radio station, I wanted them to learn, my methodology and what was happening here. And none of my DJs never were told, this is what you need to play. Like today, they have a playlist. No, you play what you think your audience wants to hear. And you'd be surprised, you have 5 DJs in one day, completely different audiences, completely different. Some people wanted conjunto music, somebody, tejano music, somebody wanted mixture, somebody wanted mariachi music, and they were pleasing their audience. And I had more listeners that way than trying to tell them, no, you're going to play this one song every 15 minutes. And after a while, the public said, ya cansas la canción. So to me, it was, they were doing what they wanted to do, and they do it. As long as my only thing I said, I don't want you to cuss, and I don't want you to talk in issues that you have no understanding. I had a stack of magazines and newspapers there. If you want to read about an issue, you read the newspaper and then say it. Don't say it because you believe in whatever you believe in. Try to believe in what the people read and what they help. So yeah, so then I understand that. Thank you very much for saying what you said. But it's true. If you don't give somebody an opportunity, and it makes no difference who you are, it doesn't have to be professional. I found more people with degrees dumber than you think they are, than people off the street that you say, would you come here and do this for me? I mean, not that a degree doesn't help, it's very, 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 very useful. But when you want to come to the barrio, you got to be in the barrio to know what's happening. You can't pick up a book and say, well, this is what they say the barrio is all about. I'm sorry, you got to come down. And I welcome everybody that wants to come down to the barrio, to walk the streets of the barrio. Anytime, just call me. I'll go with them, or I'll find somebody who will guide you through the barrio for you to see for yourself the life that our people, and especially today with the economy the way it is, our people aren't being paid properly, but yet everything is going up in cost, and they're struggling to even stay alive. When it comes to taxes, forget it. But come on down, visit, be with us. I mean, I ask anybody and everybody, if you know and if you want to understand who we are, you have to be among us. Don't read it in the book, because it's not 99% of the time not going to tell you the truth. That's why we need a book that will really tell the truth and really come down to grassroots of who we are.
Any other questions? Anything else? I have one, Mr. Tafoya, because about how many individuals from the Brown Berets were actually writing for the ECHO?
I can't really tell you because I don't have the whole newspaper with me, because like that, Zeke's the one that handled all that. But there was many of them that would come down and bring the story, but didn't write it. They would bring the camera with the pictures, and they would turn it into Zeke, and then it was up to him, and they would tell him what happened, and he would write the story. So I couldn't tell you who was who. All I know is that I kept having to print a lot of camera pictures, because they would bring the throwaways to me, and I had to go and have them processed, But yeah, I couldn't tell you.
But we were very fortunate in that we were able to get a number of photo images for this exhibit at the Terrazas branch, and then also what will be online. But again, had it not for the ECHO that I had actually been able to have access to copies that we have here, I would not have known about the pictures. I would not have known about some of the members of Brown Berets and so forth, and then been able to pursue it that way. So that is a very much a form of documentation that probably would not have existed. I mean, we didn't have that many photographs here until Susana and Gilbert, turned some over to us so that we could include in our collection. So we're very fortunate in that respect. But, it really, as I stated earlier, with all of this information that has come from having done this project on the Brown Berets and activism in general, we wish that Mr. Wyatt would have been able to have been here this afternoon, because I think we would have gotten also his very good perspective of what was going on within the African American community, and then also the Black Citizens Task Force and all of that, because they were very much supporters of the Brown Berets and all that was going on at the time. And a lot of the documentation will be found in articles. But we want to thank you very much for coming and being a part of this. As I said, this is the last program for this particular project, but by no means does this mean that this is the ending of this project, because I never consider any project, or at least the ones that I work on, to ever end, because history continues, and we still get more and more information coming in from past projects. And as I said, this one actually started way back in early 2009. It actually started back then, and as I went along with these other projects, except for the Quinceañera, I don't know, the Brown Berets were not involved, I guess, with the Quinceañera project, but that's the only project that there was never a mention of the Brown Berets. But everything else, there has been. The Trailblazers, the Voices de Latinas, the Oral History Project of the Mexican American Cultural Center, there's always been. And so, for those of you that were not able to attend, the Wednesday program that we had at Terrazas on the documentaries, we do have copies of that. I would urge you to take a look at them. And then also, we do have the exhibit at Terrazas branch. So if you've not had an opportunity to go there, please go there and take a look at that, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And when you look at those pictures, you know that there was a lot that these individuals had to go through. And I was very amazed. There is one individual here sitting amongst you that when I chose the picture that I chose for the exhibit at Terrazas, I had no idea who that individual, that young man, there were two, they're in a park, and there's a guitarist and there is someone playing the accordion. At that time, I had no idea who they were. And then I was told that it was Raul Valdez, well-known muralist and artist, and supposedly a singer now that I know because I heard him yesterday. I was there, and so I heard that. And also Juan Tejeda, who is also a well-known musician and author and educator. So, a lot of things have transpired from all of this too, and that we got to know a lot of these individuals. They went beyond that of being activists or, being out there in the forefront of demonstrating and marching. They went on to be, professors and gotten PhDs and all of that. And other individuals went on and continued to fight for the commonality for the good of their community. And so with all of that said, I don't think that having chosen the Brown Berets, for me, it was an honor, and it definitely is with anything that I work on. It is always an honor. I am going to plug the next project. I cannot help myself. I must now say, because it is dealing with music, and it is the 2014 project of In the Shadow of the Live Music Capital of the World. And that started with the idea of local Latinas, and with an article in 2009 written by Margaret Moser, where she is asking, It's entitled Tres Chicas and a Ringer. And there she's asking who can be compared, local or Latinas, to that of Manuel Cowboy Dunley and to Ruben Ramos. And that really got the juices going for me, and we did voices, and out of that, 5 individuals were nominated and selected. And I kept asking, why 5? I kept thinking there's got to be more. And the 3 chicas were not individuals that were born and raised here in Austin. They were individuals that moved to Austin, not born and raised. And so I thought, well, why isn't there local? And so that has really gotten things going. And as I found out, Manuel Dunley has 2 daughters, actually 3, that were performing at a very young age. And that had never been really documented. As a matter of fact, in Música, as one that was an article that was written about the Hillside concerts, and 2 bands were mentioned. One was from Seguin, I think one was from Lockhart, and there was a local all-girl band. And it was like, who were they? Yes. And so, but this is the type of thing too that hopefully this project is going to bring out. This type of information, because I think it is so necessary. I too am of the same opinion. Music is universal. Everyone listens to music regardless of the type of music. And so we're digging and we're finding information that a lot of, was not made available to the public. And so 2014, hopefully April, is going to be something that we are going to, instead of sitting and talking about, those people that got beat up and everything, we're going to talk about individuals that really, with the music and everything, and hopefully it'll be a happier moment, a happier tune. So keep looking at our Facebook. Keep looking at the Austin History Center website. And please, be part of what we have to offer here and what everyone has to offer also. We do have refreshments. We do have sandwiches. By the way, taste the sangria. Punch. It doesn't have alcohol. Okay, it doesn't have alcohol. But do taste that also. Make yourself comfortable and ask Mr. Tafoya any questions.
May I add one thing to what you were saying? You realize that, I don't know if you know where Johnston High School is, but in the past, 28 orchestras, came out of Johnston High School alone. 28, and I have a list of all the names of them, and the total number of groups that were produced here in Austin, Texas, including conjuntos mariachis, 81, just in Austin alone.
What years?
Oh God, you go way back to the 50s, okay, to the present. So you talk about music, Austin, being the capital, but you can imagine, we had all these groups here in Austin that are hardly ever mentioned, Shorty the Corvette, man, the CEOs and all those. In fact, you'll see most of their pictures in that one of the newspapers that I put up there. So I'm saying, once again, it's a part of our culture that needs to be refined and be told about, because again, sin música no hay vida. Without our music, we wouldn't live, because even when we would pick cotton, we would be singing. My mother would be singing, making tortillas, who sings when they make tortillas, if it's not a soothing way of keeping you working. So I'm saying music is very, very vital and very important for our life.
In the back over here, we do have some of the issues of the Villager and also some of the Echo. And a couple of posters of the February 1983 march against the KKK. We do ask that you take a look at that also. So I guess then this does not officially end the Brown Berets project. It just has allowed us to reclaim and recover some of this history. And we thank you all for coming and being a part of this. And we do ask that you please give us this little evaluation because it is very important. does tell us also as to what you thought about the program, and then also as to what you think about how we are doing our programs here. Thank you very much.